And we are live. And how are you doing today? Huh? How you doing today, Mike? Huh? I'm gonna
Doing
pester
good.
you like a 5-year-old. How does that sound?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were talking to the chat or to me personally, but yeah, I'm doing great.
All right, I am doing fantastic. I am getting the link shared out, and we are live. Yeah, like I said, I do not have any like ability to really screen share. It crashes my web browser faster than Sunny Bono crashes into a tree.
Oh,
And
I
for
don't, do,
the
do do the kids these days even know who Sonny Bono is?
they probably don't. They probably don't. But they, like that's meant for those of us of our age who grew up with in the like 80s and 90s who would know not only who that is, would know that he was a senator and would know he died by crashing his car into a tree.
Well, I think he was skiing, but yeah,
How does it?
he was like
Oh,
skiing down a mountain and then he had crashed into a tree.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
I just knew he'd hit a tree. Like
yeah.
I didn't know he had Liam Neeson's wife did.
What movie is that from?
No, literally that's how
Oh,
Liam Neeson's
oh,
wife literally
damn.
died. Yes,
Yikes.
she hit a tree too hard. They thought she was gonna be fine.
Skiing?
Her,
No, but she was skiing.
yeah, skiing.
Wow, I'm never going skiing then. That's
Um, just freak accident. Sometimes it happens,
I don't
dude.
know. Two of them though. Two famous people. I mean, that's I don't like those odds.
Well, think about it. Christopher Reeves broke his
Well,
neck riding a horse.
exactly, and that's why I'm also never gonna ride a horse.
I've ridden many a horse. Well, not really. I've ridden like two, three horses, but
You
I,
daredevil.
I know how to ride. Surprisingly, not the best at it. I know enough to. I know the basics of how to ride. I can control a horse. I can do all that.
Hmm.
But I'm not like some hardcore experienced rider. I haven't ridden a horse since I was 16.
But have you gone skiing? That's the real question.
Nope. So that's because even as a kid, I lacked the stability to do that.
Mm.
But that was even before I had a bad hernia. No, now I'm just like broken, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah, I've never been around enough snow to even consider doing that. So,
really? I thought you lived in an area up north. That's no.
who me? No, I live in Texas.
Really? Wow, that completely caught me off guard.
Yeah,
Like, wow,
my whole
I
life
was.
lived in Texas. I only saw real snow for the first time in the snowstorm last year. So, well, I guess it was technically early this year, but yeah.
1 second. I'm sitting here like, oh yeah, I set my coffee on my Keurig to make. Let me go back. It's not made. I'm like, you better be working this time. Okay, the button's flashing. I'm getting coffee this time. I'm a sad panda right now, dude. I'm a real sad panda.
Gotta get that caffeine.
Oh, do you even know me? Wait, go full Alucard. Have you even read my Christmas list? Like, oh, like, no, but all right, we've done enough witty banter and time of wasting. So, Derek, let's talk about the real you, the feelings, the the Grayskale. So where were you in it, like emotionally when this came out? Because you know that's what the fans really care about. It doesn't matter how good of the writing is; it's how you were feeling when you wrote it. All right, all jokes aside. So seriously, let Grayscale. You got some new stuff for us. What's going on? What's going on? You gotta let us know.
Yeah, so Grayscale, my superhero comic, the long-awaited sequel. At least I hope it was awaited because we launched the first one back in 2020, and yeah, the new one's going to be coming out early next year. We just launched the pre-launch page on Indiegogo. Anybody who
Nice.
signs up to that will get access to a 20% discount when we do go live. We all know how expensive crowdfunding can be, so that's definitely a deal I would not pass up if I were you. And yeah, all you gotta do is just sign up with your email, and you'll get that 20% discount.
Nice. So I never got a chance to read the first one, unfortunately, because that literally you released it, and then guess what happened? Guess what happened, Michael? What happened?
I'm afraid to ask.
Well, we all know what happened. It was kind of a global thing.
Oh yes, the coof.
Yes, the coup. And I lost all hours. I was like, ah.
Yeah,
But
that was it's funny that yeah, that was yeah, I had some like personal stuff in my life that happened that made 2020 like the worst year ever, even without the coof. So
right,
I almost don't even associate it with the coof, that being the
right.
coof year. Like it was just a bad year altogether, like all
It,
around. So
yeah, right,
I,
right.
I yeah, I totally forgot that. Yeah, I guess we did. It's weird to think about, but yeah, we launched that right smack dab in the coof year. So we did pretty
Yeah.
well, all things considered, though.
Oh yeah, no. Y'all deserved every bit of success you got, and I would like to believe my little wrestler promo that I made helped that in some
Yes.
ways.
Absolutely. Yeah, for I hope everybody watching this has seen that, but Mr. Jones did do a awesome promo video for Grayscale. And yeah, we might, you know what? I might repost that on Twitter so in case people who haven't seen it, it's hilarious. And yeah,
Thank you.
I'm sure you got us some sales for that. I need to give you some royalties.
I wasn't even asking for royalties. I was just like proud that I fucking was able to help. I'm like, hey, I did something. I did a funny. I
Yeah, that
go,
was
but yeah,
good
go full
stuff.
master splinter. My favorite has wait. I've always been partial to cowabunga.
Yeah,
Um,
it's yeah, but it's I don't know, 2020 just feels like 10 years ago.
oh, dude, it really does. It really does, dude. Especially for me, you got to figure 2020. How do I say this? 2020 was a shitty year. But it allowed 2021 to be a great year because like bounced back, got health insurance, got like truck license, this, that, and the other. I
Well, that's
mean,
great. Yeah, that's good to
yeah.
hear.
So it's like, you know what? In perspective, bad year can always lead to
Mhm.
good year. And if you had good year with the first Grayscale, I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just saying.
fingers crossed. Uh,
Definitely. So where did you leave off with the first one? Because, like I said, I was unable to get it personally.
well, first off, let me just say that since you haven't read it, and for anybody else who hasn't read it, we do actually have the first 20 pages of the comic free to read on my blog.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
Yeah, I can post a link to that in the chat or in the private chat if you don't mind posting that.
Uh,
Um, so
in
yeah,
the other chat, definitely.
yeah,
Just gonna where is it? Granted, it doesn't help that I'm also being a bit on the the I may or may not be playing Metal
Oh
Gear
no, you're good.
Survive.
Yeah.
So I like don't mind me, folks. I'm multitasking and trying to be funny at the same time because damn it, Jim. I want
But
to be
yeah,
funny.
I posted the link in the private chat when you get a
Oh,
chance.
I'm already added to the one what you call it chat, and I'm saving it to the details real quick of the video. So,
Oh,
boo,
nice.
yeah, it will be there in two forms, bro.
Right on. So yeah, the for people who don't know, Grayscale is the character in my avatar right there, the guy in the Grayscale outfit. He's a superhero character I created. Basically, I would describe him as like a street level vigilante, maybe like in the style of like Daredevil with hints of the Punisher and Ghost Rider, stuff like that. And his main gimmick is that he can actually see people's karma. So he can point out who the good guys are and who, more importantly, the bad guys are. And that's kind of how he tracks down the guys that he needs to inflict the most punishment on. And not only can he see their karma, but in some cases he can actually uh, cash in their karma, their instant karma, and cause them instant misfortune. So if they're a really bad guy, they're going to have a worse punishment in proportion to their crimes. So yeah, pretty interesting gimmick he has. He's got kind of a twisted sense of humor. He's kind of like he's kind of got like a Spider-Man thing going on where he likes to mock his enemies as he beats the crap out of them. But
Don't hate, because quite frankly, that's part of the reason why we like Spider-Man. I'd love to be honest.
exactly, think of him as like Spider-Man but with a mean streak.
There
Like
you go.
yeah, but yeah. So this is kind of my love letter to the superhero genre. All the things we know and love about superheroes I put into this book. I like to think where we have like a unique spin on the genre. Everybody kind of rolls their eyes nowadays, like, oh, everything the superhero genre, everything's already been done, it's over. But I like to think that we're bringing something new to the table. And believe it or
And,
not, there really aren't that many characters who use karma as a superpower. So I
and,
think we're on to something here.
and not even that. Not even that. Who cares? Like,
Exactly.
like, who cares if everything has been done? Just because everything has been done does not mean that your interpretation of,
hmm
you and I could tell the exact same story. Like, practically, all right? Have the same plot element, same, whoopty bam. Here's the thing, it will not be the same
hmm
because of the fact that we both have our own
Yeah.
spin that we will put on the story, our own narrative styles, if you will.
hmm
So just
Yeah.
because something has already been done, don't let that be an excuse to not do something.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. And I think not only is the character unique with the karma powers and all that, but I think our perspective, me and the artist PK Santra, I think we're really bringing something new. One of the reviews actually kind of described it as like it kind of gave them, going back to that promo that we were talking about that you made, the idea behind the character was kind of going back to that grim and gritty 90s style of the Image era, Todd McFarlane, Spawn, stuff like that.
Back
But
when men were men and superheroes were allowed to have pouches.
yeah, it's all about the pouches. But one of the reviews actually said it reminded them even more of like 80s era, which was surprising. But when they said it was like, oh yeah, I can kind of see that because I guess the way I write is kind of more in that kind of Marv Wolfman style where it's all very soap opera y, but just that classic superhero style. So
I would describe you closer to Claremont in a lot of ways because what I've read about, like, I'm just saying what I have read of Abductables with 1
Mm,
and 2. You have a good sense of. You could tell you're trying to set one of the things that Claremont did, and he was famous for this. And if you are good at it, you
mm,
will never, especially in comic books, be out of material. With
yes.
Abductable or Abductables, you are setting up arcs within arcs,
Mm,
things going on within the story. Just because you every time you step through each chapter, you find out this is it's like an ogre. It's got layers, but you get my point. It's
yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's what I'm hoping you bring to the Abductables. So to say you have that 80s flair, that 80s Marvel touch, that's a good thing because that means you're
Oh yeah.
trying to focus on things that made that era good.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's a very high praise, and that's exactly when the review did mention the '90s thing, Marv Wolfman, Chris Claremont kind of style. It wasn't something I was conscious of, but when they said it, I was like, yeah, I definitely see that. Like you were saying with peeling back the layers of the onion and adding all the subplots and adding depth to every scene is something I definitely take seriously, and to me, that's the fun part of writing is all the world building and the characters and uh, the idea of that I know more than the audience knows, but that they can pick up on certain hints and they can kind of see certain clues that I leave. That's to me, that's just the fun part of
Well,
writing. So
if I remember right, isn't one of your give me trying to remember his name. I guess you could say influences of Chuck Palahniuk as well.
um, honestly, I'm not like I wouldn't call him an influence because I've seen like Fight Club, but I haven't read any of his books, so I can't. I'd be
You're not
lying if
like
I
me.
said
You
he
haven't
was an
read like
influence.
several of his books, and it's like,
No,
yeah, no.
but if
Dude, you want a good laugh, real quick? This is like when you project your writing so hard that okay. So if you read a lot of his writing, the common theme is the main character's gay, and that's why he has all these dysfunctions in his life.
Mm.
Then it came out he was gay, and I'm like, you know, I'm just saying, sometimes projection much. I figured you get a laugh out of that.
Yeah, honestly, I don't even know. You're like he's one of those writers that is like he's got like almost like a rabid cult fan base. But to me, I only really know him as the Fight Club guy because obviously that's like his biggest work. But
All right, so
he keeps popping up. Like he's a name that always pops up. Is like eventually I'm just gonna have to sit down and read all his books because he is that.
oh yeah, to better explain him, like the why I thought he was a bit of an influence. Like one of the things mentioned with millennials that I always thought was interesting is you have his same knack for, or the best way to put it is which is what you're mentioning, that projecting and telling the story the best you can and having elements set up that are payoff in the end. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like if you were paying attention, you catch type deal.
Yeah.
That's a big thing that he likes to do is if you that were you paying attention?
Yeah. That makes sense, yeah.
Oh, sorry,
I mean,
sorry,
I'm
sorry.
I'm assuming the movie Fight Club is pretty faithful to the original book?
Um, hard to explain.
Kind of, yeah. Well
It both bring everything back to zero, but the best way I can describe it is it's one goes more into depth than the other would be a better way of putting it. they're both sharing the same like narrative thought, but
Hmm.
but the book goes more into the why and the actual like philosophy behind it. Like
Yeah.
besides so I guess if we're gonna go down the side road away from Grayscale for a bit, proper meeting of the mind scale, might as well go proper into it. All right, so the whole point of the book is mankind, like you kind of get a bit of it in the movie, but not to the point, not to the extent that the book gave you. And the whole point is we have become too commercialized. We have allowed everything that we own to become our owners. Like the best way to describe it would be like our my big collection of collectibles would like that would be a prime example of for some people like the way he'd put it is that it's even though they are something that I'm a big fan of Batman, it would be still too much consumerism because I'm
Hmm.
wasting money on useless things. And the whole point is we are spending our whole lives chasing useless things compared to early man who had things to actually worry about. And the whole point wasn't just to return man back to zero. It was to return man back to zero while at the same time, the best way I can describe it, uh, remove mankind from the modern era.
Mm. That's
Be-
that's kind of interesting because maybe now I can definitely see why you think I'm influenced by him because a lot of a lot of those themes are actually in Abductables too, specifically. So who knows? Maybe I'm a kindred spirit with Mr. Palinuk.
Yeah, like it's literally, and like there's one speech that Tyler Durden goes on where he's like, imagine one day overpasses will be used for gardening instead of massive machines transporting goods. Mankind instead of oh, I did not see that dude behind me. Anyway, but about mankind instead of wasting their time on frivolous pursuits of fame and power will instead worry about the things that matter most, survival, as they go out and hunt the deer and so on and so forth. Like the whole idea was like this utopian
Hmm.
return to nature and return to, if you will, the simpler time because modern advancement has made mankind forget what really mattered.
Yeah, and it's funny because a lot of those ideas, like I guess when Fight Club came out in like the '90s, this was all kind of hypothetical, like, oh, that's kind of an interesting take. But now a lot of those ideas of like going back to nature and cutting off the consumerism, that's those ideas are becoming way more popular in people's real lives. So
Yeah, it kind of just makes you think, dude. It just makes you
yeah.
really think, and like, I always thought that that was an interesting thing for the best way for me to describe it. I figured it was always an interesting narrative take that I wished the movie itself had maintained. But and so, but yeah, that's why, like I said, I always figured like like I said, I never got to read Grayscale, but having read Abductables 1 and 2, I kind of had a rough idea with your writing style that it was going to actually have, even if you didn't mean to, it was going to have meat to it
Mhm.
outside of just the story that you're trying to tell. Like it's going to foreshadow things whether you meant to or not.
Yeah, definitely, and even more so in Grayscale as opposed to Abductables because, I mean, at least in the beginning, the first Abductables was kind of just intended to be kind of like a frivolous one shot, like just kind of stupid fun, action comedy. Of course, it became deeper than that in the writing process, but as far as Grayscale, from the ground up, I definitely wanted to tell like a big deep story across multiple volumes. So yeah, definitely going for that long term storytelling.
Well, and I mean, and that's the best thing about superheroes, especially when you're looking at things like, for instance, what you're trying to do with Grayscale and bring back a lot of that 90s, you know, I guess you could say hyper masculinity within the characters and the quick wit and the very, I guess you could say, very Bruce Willis inspired and influenced, I think is a better way of putting it. Uh, I guess you could say characters because think about it. A lot of those characters that came out in the '90s were very influenced by uh, Die Hard and things like that.
Hmm. Yeah, there was
So,
something in the air in the '90s. Everything just kind of went to like a darker, edgier uh, style, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to kind of bring back that spirit is because everything's so watered down nowadays, and nothing has teeth anymore, and it's just all very safe. And I wanted to kind of bring some of the danger back to comics. Like uh, when I was a kid, reading comics in the '90s, they felt kind of dangerous. Like, maybe I shouldn't be reading this. Like, there was something edgy about them, and I kind of wanted to bring that feeling back to
well, I can
comics.
explain part of it. I mean, it was men were sexy, women were sexy, people were
Hmm.
good for the sake of being good. Altruism wasn't this thing. Like when they questioned altruism, it was altruism. How can I put it? I got to make sure to phrase this right. The characters never lost their altruism. They questioned themselves and questioned their motives, but in the end, they generally tried to always follow being the good guys, even if
Hmm.
it meant their downfall in some ways. And I think that was what made a lot of that old school storytelling so valuable. And I think I hope that's what you're trying to bring back with like Grayscale. And I know a lot of indie creators are trying to, but I hope like that's one thing that I think we need to have a returning meaning to.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And that I definitely see that wave coming up of like kind of going back to that just we have had the grim and gritty stuff for so long. There is definitely a nostalgia for like the more innocent superheroes that uh kind of embody like heroic ideals because for so long it's been all about, oh, let's deconstruct the superhero, let's take apart the genre, and give Superman a drinking problem, and give Batman psychological issues and stuff like that. And some of those stories were fun for the time, but I think people are kind of
We're
uh
tired of it.
they're tired of it. They want to go back to just classic good versus evil.
Well,
And
you don't need and it's something that I've really been thinking about because one of the things I like goals I've set for myself because that's become like a big thing for me. That's how I've been getting things done. I set mini goals, goals that can be accomplished, short term, and then long term goals, things that I'm aiming for that, sometimes year to, things like my license was a long term goal because
mm,
because that required me also getting a vehicle, things like that. Point being, one of those goals is I want by this time next year to have my comic out, like my comic
mm,
on to be what you're doing, setting up, doing the pre
yeah.
thing at the very least. You know what I mean? And one of the things that I'm really drilling into myself now as I go in to rewrite the starting issue is it doesn't have to be some narrative masterpiece. Keep it
Hmm.
silly, keep it fun, keep it a superhero story. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
I do have it to want it to be a narrative masterpiece, but I want it to be The first few pages is where the narrative masterpiece is. The rest of it, I want to be silly superhero story and whatnot. And then it gets darker. It goes into what's going on in those starting couple pages. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
I have an entire like narrative way the story's going to tell, and if it works, I hope it works. It'll be awesome. But the whole point I'm making is that's what comics need to be a return of, and that's what you're trying to do with Grayskales. You're trying to be one of the first people bringing back that fun.
Yeah, and that's definitely important to me because obviously I want the story to be as deep and meaningful as possible, and I want to add as much layers as I can, and really, I am aspiring to make that classic masterpiece, but at the same time, the most important thing is to entertain people, and I think comics have kind of lost sight of that. Comics always, from the beginning, it's been kind of like a working class, blue collar medium, just kind of disposable. It sprung, it's an offshoot of Pulp Fiction. It's,
Yeah.
and so I think, sometimes when people take the art form too seriously, like, a guy like Alan Moore, good stuff can come out of that. And there definitely is room for the kind of artsy fartsy comics, but when you're telling straight up superhero Pulp Fiction, first and foremost, before anything else, the most important thing is to entertain the reader, give them the money's worth, and give them a reason to keep turning the page.
Exactly. It's funny you mention Alan Moore, and that's a very good point. Like, I think a lot of people forget one simple thing. Not everyone's going to be Alan Moore.
Yeah, that's the problem. Too many people think they're Alan Moore, but they're not.
Exactly. So the fact that you're going in thinking, "Hey, I want to tell a good story, but I'm not trying." You want to tell a good story, but you're not Alan Moore. That's
Yeah,
already like sets you on a good path because you realize biggest thing that hurts any writer and any project is when I'm gonna use No Man's Sky here as an example. No Man's Sky, when it launched, was a horrible game. All right. But they listened to the fans. They kept the heads down. And now No Man's Sky is fantastic, dude. I will tell you, it is well worth your money. All right.
a
But
video game company actually listening to the fans, that's unheard of.
yes, oh dude, it is. You would be so surprised. It is fantastic. I was caught off guard, but I like it. It's a great game. I need to get a SSD so I can finally have more games on my computer. Like literally, I'm just thinking about using both slots and whatnot. Both sluts, but anyway. Uh, the point being, they listen to their fans, and because of it, now they have a really good game. Feedback can always be your best friend. And that's one of the things that I've definitely seen you do and other indie creators do, you know, since coming on the scene. You guys have consistently said, "Hey, what do you think of my story?" I know you for a fact you don't just take a script and go to your artist and go, "Hey, draw that." No, you go, "All right, who wants to read my script real quick? Real quick, come on, guys.
Well,
It's not
it's
that."
kind of built into the DNA of comics. It's a collaborative medium by its very nature, unless you're like a genius like Frank Miller who could just do everything himself. That it is the comic book industry is kind of like a miniature version of the movie industry in the sense where it's multiple people working on it. You have the writer, the artist, the color, the letterer. So yeah, it's a group effort. So you definitely got to be open to hearing other people's ideas.
Well, and that to me is what I'm going on a guess here. I think really helped you make best out of Grayscale as a character. Like it pushed you to like when someone gave you criticism, you didn't go, well, never. You went, okay, well, let me see, what can I do to make this? Oh, here's something that I didn't think of. That would be a good way to do something.
Yeah, and I think that's a problem that a lot of modern comic book pros have is they cannot take any criticism and they're very hostile to any kind of feedback. So
Well, and that's also why, like, one of the I don't know if you saw my previous video that I put out the other day about BattleTech, and I was kind of even though I know Razor Fist never saw it, I was responding to Razor Fist talking about not letting the commies have BattleTech, and I'm
mm,
like, dude, I get where he's coming from. We all been saying the same thing though about comic books, but what power do we have to prevent it? And so the
there's no
best,
stopping
yeah.
it.
So the best thing is, what can we do?
Yeah,
Well, the best thing to do is to, instead of trying to, if you will, take back, and even if we did fix everything like that these people did to like Superman, to Batman, to Wonder Woman, and so on and so forth. There's no they're we're still letting their ideas live on because these characters you can't you can't rub that kind of stink off of them, like, or wash
no,
that kind of stink off of them.
no, and I think a lot of people are still in denial about that. They think that the culture war is still going on. They don't realize that it's already been lost.
No, no,
There,
no, no,
there's
not that it's lost.
well,
They
it's
took
lost in
over
the
the
sense that
established characters. Yes.
yeah, well, I separate those two. I mean, I guess you could say that creating new stuff is part of the culture war. Fair enough,
Yeah.
but yeah, as far as like Superman and Star Wars and all these beloved properties that have
Oh
been
yeah,
just
they're
dragged
gone.
through the dirt. It, honestly, it doesn't even pay me to say it anymore, just because I think I've kind of come to terms with it. It
I think we
definitely
all have.
was. Yeah, it was a sad thing, but yeah, it's almost like I look at something now, like because they're kind of at this point, the the commies, for lack of a better word, are kind of like they're kind of looking around like, okay, what haven't we destroyed yet? What's left? Now
But
they're most recently they had like the He-Man thing, and that was a whole debacle. But
yeah, well, but here's the thing. That's what makes characters like Grayscale so important, because it shows
yeah,
pushback. Like, and as much say what people like, people make a lot of valid points about you know uh, a certain beanie headed YouTuber. Uh, one of the things I am trying to stop doing is stop naming certain people, like, when in that aspect. You know what I mean? Everyone knows
mhm,
who I'm talking about. Who cares? Razor Fist doesn't have nearly the number of people he has. You know what I mean?
mhm,
But it's like I've kind of noticed, and I was bad habit of doing it back when I started my channel. A lot of people try to name drop and everything. That's why I specifically tried to say when in promoting the videos, like, it's not a reply guy bit. It's I literally feel like he should stop wasting his energy, stop putting out videos, stop playing the game, stop wasting your time. Time can be better spent, energy can be better spent making your own shit. And
yeah,
what you're doing with Grayscale, what Sporkman does with his Sporkman character, what Brian Ball does with Rags, what everyone, it, so many people do with all these characters, that everyone, like I say, is always talking about that. That to me, that's what matters.
mhm,
And trying to sit there and say, well, we could save these franchises if only what? I'd rather
and
I'd rather read Grayskale. I'd rather read Abductables. I'd rather read shit
yeah.
like that. I'd rather read Millennials. Hint hint.
And honestly, it's gotten to the point like we're so far removed from there even being a chance or a hope of saving any of these properties that we grew up loving. Like now, like the culture war people that kind of still pretend that, oh, we're fighting the good fight. To me, it's like, okay, are you do you even really believe what you're saying, or are you just trying to make outrage bucks? Is
Well, to quote Rick, you're all pieces of shit, and I can prove it mathematically.
Yeah, yeah, I'm over it. And even something like the now that they're gonna start desecrating the corpse of Lord of the Rings of all things. So it's like that
Eh.
would have like triggered me so much like a couple years ago. Like I would have been so upset. But now I just kind of laugh at it because it's like, okay,
Right?
yeah, just yeah, I guess y'all haven't ruined that one yet. Go for it.
Have fun.
Yeah, have at
Good.
it.
Good. Do a flip. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see you do this. You better not just epic screw this up. I want to see you screw this up proper. Oh, I
Yeah.
want to see people like, I want to see them like literally celebrating it on Twitter. I want to see them like, all the right people are upset. What are you talking about? None of us are giving a shit. We're laughing about it. We
Yeah.
like, okay, we're gonna use Lord of the Rings as an example real quick, but it is Lord of the Rings is a prime example of what happens when you've done it too many times with these characters
Mhm.
and nobody cares anymore. Like,
Yeah, that I think they're gonna learn that lesson. Like, yeah, they kind of got off on like, oh, are you triggered, fanboy? Let me drink your fanboy tears, and now it's just like as diminishing returns. As the
well,
fanboys
no, it's not
have moved
just
on.
it's not just diminishing returns. It's even funnier than that. You gotta like, bear with me here. This is what makes it even funnier. It's not just diminishing returns. They don't get their fanboy tears. It's they can't even sit there and complain that we're complaining anymore. Like
Yeah,
they
exactly.
lost their biggest platform because that's what it was. It was they got money and clicks off of the bigots are crying.
Hmm.
And it's like, are you kidding me? The people you call bigots just are over here making comics because they're tired of hearing you complain about them?
Yeah, I mean, look at Eternals. I mean, obviously that's not like as big of a property that people would care about, but that thing, as far as I know, I don't think it bombed necessarily, but pretty for a
Dude,
Marvel
dude,
movie, it
dude,
kind of
dude,
did.
dude.
And but nobody cares. Like we just kind of say, "Oh, that looks
That looks
really bad."
horrible. We're not gonna. Oh, dude.
Yeah, moving on.
Oh, want to know what's even funnier? So I work at a movie theater.
Mm,
We had it.
ugh,
Oh
empty.
man, dude, like literally, I saw people who normally give movies we're talking the guys that'll sit there and be like, it was pretty good. The most things coming out going, oh, that movie fucking sucks. Blah, blah, blah." The Eternals was the third movie, like literally. It it was supposed to be the third movie in the franchise, and it suffers from what I refer to as Green Lantern syndrome.
That's not good.
Well, think about it. Green Lantern was the third movie in the series. If that had been the third movie that you were watching, I think that movie would have made a lot more sense. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like he's struggling with fear, so on and so forth. The end of the movie ends with him falling and becoming the new Parallax. Color me
yeah,
surprised, all right, that type deal.
yeah.
All right, Eternals though, Eternals. This is how bad Eternals is. All right, I get great joy in telling this story. I got asked by a customer what I thought about the movie. I was like, I hadn't seen it yet because I know about Jack Kirby's original work. I know how the Eternals are supposed to be real psychedelic and whatnot. And on top of that, I mean, like take for instance the vibranium in Wakanda, that celestial embryo. I mean, there's so much you got to go into when you talk about. Do you care? Are you ever going to see the movie?
Oh no, no.
Literally, the whole movie is about the celestial embryo emerging on Earth.
Mm.
He's telling the guy about the vibranium and Wakanda and all that. I legitimately gave away the plot of the fucking movie. And what makes it even worse is I didn't even realize it until I come out of the theater, or come out into the theater, I should say, be more accurate way of putting it. Because I was going to go sweep the bathroom and everything, getting shit done.
Mm.
And then I hear them talking about the emergence and what it is, and I'm just like, literally, I'm flabbergasted. I'm looking at the dude, like the screen, just like you're shitting me, right? I did not just I feel like such a dick right now because I gave the dude the plot of the movie.
Well, that's kind of surprising because I didn't think they'd, I figured they just use the name Eternals and then just make up a bunch of crap. So
Not jump straight into, like I said, what would normally be the third movie in the franchise.
Mhm.
Yeah, dude, it's so fucking dumb. I'm like, it was literally that whole experience just literally left me scratching my head like, how the fuck do you even justify that type of tomfoolery? Like, that's like, you'd think someone would have stopped them, but like, no, 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 no. This is we don't want to make. Green Lantern made this mistake. We don't want to
They'll
be.
never learn.
I know, right? Well, it's like take Daredevil. I always bring it up. It's a prime example of what happens when you have these executives that don't really have any business making or getting involved in the process of a comic book movie, getting involved in the process of a comic book movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pure and simple. That's what it is. It's they
Well,
like
that's one thing that Kevin Feige had going for him before the MCU went off the rails. Like the first few movies were really great because they actually did respect the source material. Um, they
oh
they
yeah.
kind of lost their way, but yeah.
Well, and that's what really made the MCU so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But you also got to figure they also it's not. I wouldn't say that they lost their way. They're doing exactly what they were doing beforehand. They are putting out source material from the comics exactly like they were doing beforehand. The difference is though that the source material that they're pulling from is the very source material that ran the fans off from the comics because they're trying to make the new movies like the new comics and they're
Yeah,
not
good point.
understanding that they're not listening when all the fans go that no that's why we left you in the first place was these stories.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's once again it's one of those things that just further reinforces why characters like Grayscale are needed and why like the indie scene is needed. Why stories like Abductables, Grayscale, and Millennials are prime example of what happens when you let somebody have freedom to tell the story they want to tell, not the story you think they should tell.
Yeah, and I'm kind of grateful in a way because before I started making my own comics, I think I think most people who grow up reading comics feel this way, but I wanted to write Superman one day. I wanted to write Batman one day. I wanted to be part of that. I wanted to be in that Marvel and DC system, but I became so disgusted with what they were doing to these characters and the lack of respect that they were showing them that it just solidified for me that no, I don't need to be pursuing that. I need to be making my own characters and focusing on my own creations. And I think that is the spirit of the Image revolution. That's what guys like Todd McFarlane and Rob Liefeld were all about, was just going their own way and creating their own characters. And that's definitely something I want to emulate.
Well, and you really mentioned something there with the Image revolution. It's when those guys, I guess you could say, jumped out on their own to make Image Comics. They did it because they wanted to, I guess you could say, show that comics can still be creative, and they proved it.
Mm-hmm.
They proved it.
Yeah.
And I think we're in you're getting that same feeling in books like Grayscale, Abductables, like Sporkman, like Wanpool, like Changeling, and the various Mythoverse books, and so on and so forth. The list is endless. These are books that prove that not only is there still a market for comics, but it's people wanting to bring back that sense of what people wanted in comics, that sense of fun, that sense of freedom. Because I a fallback of mine has become, these are silly stories about men in tights fighting each other. Why do they need to be serious? The idea alone is ludicrous. They're not meant to be serious.
Yeah, it's just meant to be entertainment,
Mm-hmm.
I should shout out the people in the chat. Edwin the Ace is he said, "Hail peeps." How's it going, Edwin?
What's
And
up, Edwin?
Josh, the amazing animator, is in the chat. He did have a question. He said, "Never read Grayscale, loved Abductables. Thank you. Hyped for Ridiculous, coming soon. And got a catch-up tier for Grayscale 2. Yes, we will. This is Grayscale 2. It is the sequel, but we will definitely have a perk for including both books for anybody who missed out." And he also asked what Grayscale is about. Simply put, Grayscale is a superhero, a street-level superhero with a sick sense of humor, who operates out of Glitter City, which is a alternate reality version of Las Vegas, with a bunch of superheroes and supervillains inhabiting it. And Grayscale's power is that he can actually see and manipulate karma. So he uses that power to find out who the bad guys are and punish them according to what they've done.
He's basically Ghost Rider, but cooler.
Exactly.
I just came to be like, hey, there's a description I haven't used yet. But yeah, dude, no. And really, one of the things that, I'm really looking forward to, for instance, with the Abductables, the third one is, as well, let's be honest, I mean, I'm hoping a certain somebody will finally make an appearance in the universe and become canon. I'm just saying, because I think that would be hilarious, and it's just yes, I'm auditioning. Don't judge me.
Well, it definitely is a strong idea for the third one, and I could definitely see there being some room for a certain radio personality making an appearance.
Because I gotta try to get Bob Jones in as many things as I can. Even though the fictionalized version of me is way cooler than the actual version of me, I will take it. Just
Yeah, and
saying.
then if there's ever a movie adaptation, you could play the live action character.
Right. And the thing is, I've been working at getting better at my Alex Jones because Alex Jones has a very unique voice, and it's like you need to be able to sit there and get like you have to think about the Alex Jones in order to get the Alex Jones. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
All right, so being the fact that Alex Jones is a big crazy conspiracy theorist, you got to be able to sit there and talk really fast, and at the same time, you got to figure he's got that really gruff voice, and it's so you got to be able to. As you see, I've been like I said, I've been really working on my Alex Jones. I'm trying to get him right because Alex Jones.
I mean, you just gotta pump yourself up and get angry about how they've turned the frogs gay.
Well, we're not gonna go into that. I told people I'd behave. I'm just gonna have I can't be being overly crazy all the time. I'm a guest here.
You can't go around ripping your shirt off like you did that one time.
Nope. Dude. But yeah, no, but that's the whole point. Is when you have I'm gonna use an example. All right, the movies where everyone is having a blast filming the movie. Generally, no matter how stupid the movie is, half the time that them having fun bleeds through and people feel it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think the same goes for comics. I think that's another reason why modern comics are so terrible is the people writing Marvel and DC, they don't actually love these characters that they're writing. They think
Nope.
they're stupid, and
Yeah.
they're just using them as vehicles to write their own propaganda and they put their own worldview, but they don't love the characters.
Not like us, and that's the big point, and that's really the point I'm making is when you love what you're doing and when you love the characters you're writing, you end up having more fun, and that fun translates in the comics. Even let's be honest, when you have a writer that doesn't enjoy writing the characters, we're gonna use Josh the Amazing Animator, because he was in chat and everything. We'll use him as an example. He loves Pineapple Pizza Man, so when the character drops, because he loved the character's going to have a lot of life and it's going to be fun, and it's going to be silly and everything that he wants from his comics. All right. And that's what a lot of people need to remember. If you are not willing to have fun comics and have fun writing them, why are you even what are you doing? Why are you even there?
Exactly. Josh in the chat, actually, he just said, I just thought of a great way to fit a Bob Jones cameo into a later issue of Pineapple Pizza Man.
That is
so there you go. It's
right.
The Bob Jones multiverse.
Exactly. I mean, if nothing else, if ever anyone needs they decide to combine universes within the indies, they can go, Bob Jones, he was the link. Yeah. He was the link. You know what I mean?
You'll be like the new Stan Lee, where you just make a cameo in every project.
I will never be that glorious. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. So another reference that if you're not old enough, you're not going to get.
Yeah, I think. I think the kids listening might be more into Wayne's World than Sonny Bono, but I could be wrong. Did you know Sonny Bono was in the original Troll?
No, I
Fun
didn't.
fact for you.
No, I did not.
Yeah, I actually rewatched that recently. I was like, oh, it's Sonny Bono.
Wow.
Kind of random.
Right. But,
He just turned into a tree.
Right, literally.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even think.
I,
Oh man, that's kind of some dark foreshadowing. Now that you mentioned
right?
it.
It's
Oh
like,
man,
oh wow, man, I totally forgot about that movie too, or those
yeah.
movies. Oh my god, they're eating people.
Well, that's Troll too, but yeah,
Oh
he's a
yeah,
yeah,
I know, but that like that's the first thing that pops in my head whenever someone
yeah.
mentions troll. That. Oh my god! Oh god, dude, could you can you get any more pathetic? Ah, then here's a
Those were the
memorization.
good old days of
Oh
cinema.
yeah. Oh dude, for real, bro, for real. You speak that true. I mean, but that's once again, it's these were movies that were not meant to be taken seriously. They were labors of love, like mentioning Troll. Like it was, they were labors of love meant to be silly and fun. That
Mm.
people actually did get some enjoyment out of once they sat down and actually watched it. Because let's be honest, there were probably a lot of people who are like, "Man, I ain't watching this ish. You can't make me." That type deal.
Yeah.
But I mean, but once again, so when's Grayscale officially going to be launching?
As of now, we're shooting for late January
I think.
of next year. Um, that should be the case. I don't want to give I don't want to confirm the date just yet because I want to make sure that Abductables 2 is fully fulfilled before we launch. We are on schedule to fulfill Abductables 2 by the end of the year, assuming nothing goes horribly wrong. So fingers crossed on that. Uh, Speaking of Abductables 2, we actually just we're getting the all the pages, all the artwork is complete. We're just getting the files ready for the printer right now. And Canales had to actually do some minor art corrections and stuff like that. So once all that's settled, we'll be able to place the print order. So
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully we'll get those shipped out by the end of the year.
Oh, most definitely, dude. Because you got this. I don't know what you. Why are you worried, bro? Why are you worried? You got this, guy. You got this. Don't even think you don't.
Yeah, I'm on my well, Grayscale 2 will be my fourth crowdfunding campaign, but I still feel like part of me is like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I think I have enough experience at this point where I could be somewhat confident.
Well, and to be fair, to be fair, you want to go in. All right, so yes, you want to go in projecting victory, but at the same time, you want to go in on having a being overconfident can lead
Hmm.
to one's own defeat, and you don't want to be
Yeah,
overconfident.
I think I have a healthy sense of pessimism. It's good, especially with crowdfunding where so many things can go wrong. It's good to kind of be ready for those unforeseen circumstances. So yeah.
Indeed. So, now to look, like I should say, a bit more into the future, I understand what's coming after the second Grayscale and second Abductables. What's next in the pipeline? Do you got anything that you're planning on doing with millennials? Because I keep mentioning that, and I know you're probably tired of every live stream. Like hint, hint.
No, I appreciate it. I think you're like the only fan left of, of that webcomic. Sad to say, that's
Well, I
mostly my
like.
fault for not updating it.
Well, I liked the premise. If you will, a assassin that ends up dating another assassin that he met
Hmm.
by chance. If I remember it at a party, no less.
Hmm. Yeah, the
And
thing about millennials is like, man, I have the whole thing mapped out in my head, and for people who don't know, millennials is my webcomic that's on my blog, and the whole thing was that, I'm a writer, I'm not an artist, but I figured, you know what, I can just make a web comic and draw it myself, and even though the art won't be that great, at least I can get the story out there. But then, once I started working with other artists like Canales with Abductables,
Because
it kind of
Canales is a G.
exactly, and that kind of took more of my attention away from the web comic. And I would love to finish the web comic one day, but I just don't. I don't know. I don't have the desire to draw anymore now that I actually get to work with real artists.
Oh
So
no, I understand, and that's where you just need to find someone who's willing to step in and be your artist. Like,
yeah,
and this is one where I guess you could say you can find someone who's up and coming and would either be willing to work with you on
and
that.
honestly, yeah, and that was kind of the plan even in the beginning. Like I always thought, wouldn't it be nice if the webcomic actually kind of got popular? Because I was thinking maybe I could do something like One Punch Man, where I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's kind of a similar thing where the guy drew his own comic, even though he wasn't an artist, and the art was pretty terrible. But eventually, it became so popular that he got a real artist to redraw everything
And
and
it ended up
re-release it.
working out.
Yeah, so I would love that, one day to have a legit artist like redraw everything and actually get the book finished. That would definitely be amazing. So that's definitely something I would be open to for sure. And that would be a great way to actually finish the story too.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, it's a very unique story. So let's be honest, like you're either you had to already like certain other things in order to like millennials. All right, you
Mm,
had to like you had to like Jonan Vasquez and Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, like in order to like millennials. And it's not like they're a prerequisite or anything. It's just that those
yeah, I remember you mentioning that. It seemed like that's like going back to the Chuck Palahniuk thing. It's like I haven't really read Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, but it's funny that you said that kind of reminded you of that.
and well, if I remember
Um,
right, it even says that I was not the first person to give you that comparison.
uh, I don't know. I think you were, but yeah, it's. I mean, I knew of what's his name, Johnny Vasquez.
Jonan Vasquez.
Oh, John. Yeah, I knew him from Invader Zim,
Yep.
obviously. But yeah, it's another. I'll take that as a compliment.
Oh yeah. Well, the whole thing is with I'm not gonna go into that. It's like I like that Grayscale X Abductables versus Pineapple Pizza Man X1 pool.
Yeah, we should do that.
That would be interesting. But no, like see that's once again that is the whole I guess you could say a nice thing about indies where like the big major I guess you could say comic companies would be like for the instead of it being yeah that sounds like it'd be fun and like be great read and this that, and the other it's the big companies go what's my cut
Hmm.
and that really I think is a prime example of part of what makes indies so much better.
Yeah.
I mean, it's less about well, what's my cut, and more about hey, man, that sounds like it'd be a great story. I'd read that.
Hmm.
Go.
Yeah, I can't imagine. That's another thing that as fun as it would be to work on the characters that I grew up on. I can't imagine working with an editor and having them kind of like shoot down my ideas and like tell me how you can't do this or you can't do that. Like part of the fun of making my own comics is the creative freedom, and I wouldn't want to give that up.
And it's not just giving up your creative freedom. It's you give up a piece of yourself. Like take Neil Gaiman. You know, early Neil Gaiman had to pull back a lot of his weirdness, but once he got a name,
Mhm.
oh well, he get to be as weird as he wants because he's Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the most overrated individuals in comics, but that's me. Most people probably, there are a lot of people out there who probably say the same thing about like Chuck Palahniuk and whatnot.
Yeah.
People, I know for a fact there's people who say that about like Frank Miller.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's popular is gonna have that certain section of people that say they're overrated. I mean, that just kind of goes with the territory.
Oh yeah, well yeah, it's not just that. It's because you're never gonna tweak everyone's like fancy.
Hmm.
Like take what do you trying to think of a good example of something that I would not normally be interested in. I can't really think of anything off the bat. There were books in early when I came on the scene that I can't remember the name of that. That's what they were like to me. They were. I felt like they were good ideas, but they just weren't written right.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean,
And
everybody has their own taste and everything. So,
yeah,
that's why going back to the criticism thing and how modern pros are really bad at taking criticism. I mean, it's again, everybody has their own taste, and not your work's not going to be for everybody. You should try to get as many people as possible into what you're making, but at the end of the day, you can't please everybody. So
nope. And the person you should be trying to please at the end of the day is yourself. Let's be honest, because
yeah, because if you don't like it, no one's gonna
mm,
like it.
do you like Grayscale? Do you?
I love it.
Then I think we'll be fine. But that's the point I'm making though. Having that love and that passion for writing and telling stories that I feel like a lot of writers within the industry, I feel like I think it was someone like I think it was just some guy made this point. There was a lot of people who they got into comics not because they liked comics, but because of the fact that they wanted to be writers, and they failed as like either script writers or novelists and whatnot. They got into comics because they figured it would be a easy ride,
Yeah,
and because they knew the right people and had the right politics, they were able to get these undeserved positions that really, if the industry was ran like it's supposed to be and was properly merit based, they would not be getting these jobs.
yeah,
So, but all right. I think that's a good point to stop. We've talked about Grayskale, talked about influences, talked about when it's coming out, and we can get you on again when it's actually closer to launch. Even had a chance to get an update for the Abductables.
yeah,
Anything else you
definitely.
want to add?
No, just thanks again for having me on. It's always fun talking to you, and
Uh,
just we posted the links in the chat. So definitely, people, please do sign up for the pre-launch page for Grayscale 2. Not only will you get a 20% discount when we launch, which will save you a bunch of money, but it also lets me know, kind of what the buzz is for the project, and kind of lets me prepare for, to see how many people are actually excited for the book. So please do sign up for that. And then if you're not familiar with Grayscale and you kind of want to get a sense of what the characters like, what the art is going to look like, and all that, just go to my blog, which is also linked in the chat. And we actually have the first 20 pages of Grayscale free to read, fully
yes.
colored, inked, lettered, and everything. So, and I think that's just like a perfect preview of what you can expect from the character.
And if you can't find it in the chat, don't worry. I went and put both in the description of the video. So what most you might have to do is reload the page, and there you go. You will have them.
Right on.
Alrighty. Well, where can people find you, Mike?
As far as social media goes, I'm mostly active on Twitter. You can find me at Cauldron Comics, or just search Michael Derrick. I'll probably pop up. And yeah, just hit me up on there if you have any questions or just want to chat. I'm on there pretty often, so and I love hearing from people. So yeah.
Word. And as always, you folks can find me on the Twitters at Brainiac420. You can find me everywhere else at Bob Jones Comic Wars. Please, if you could, like, subscribe, share this video out, get the word out about Grayskale, and let everyone know, hey, there's even an update about Abductables too. And with that, I guess we're going to bid you folks farewell. Later, folks.
Later.
Oh, the one downside to my setup. Gotta get to the...